Alright guys, back with another video today. We're going to be putting in an electric fence around this food plot. You could put this in around a garden, food plot, whatever, it works the same. It's called a 3D fence. There's an inner fence and an outer fence. The deer, their depth perception is different than ours, so they don't think they can jump over it, even though it's plenty low enough for them to jump over it. And then the outer strand, I'm going to electrify just so while they're standing there thinking about it, if they smell it or whatever, then it'll zap them. And then in a couple months, after this food plot's been growing up, I'm gonna take the fence down pretty close to deer season. The issue that I've had here in the past is that we have really high deer density, so they've been eating whatever I plant here. By the time season comes around, it's pretty much gone. Every year I've been blaming myself or the weather or whatever, and I thought I just whatever I planted didn't really grow right. But I have an exclusion cage that I'll put in that always tells me like it's a foot or two tall within the cage, but outside the cage it looks like I didn't plant anything. I don't think it's me doing anything wrong. I think we have too much browse pressure from the deer because we have a high deer density. I'm going to leave a section where the fence doesn't cover. That way we can see the difference in a couple months of inside the fence and outside. And I'll put that exclusion cage in that section that I leave for the deer. That way we can see the difference. You can see some soybeans starting to come out of the ground. And if the deer eat those right now, then they're just not going to grow. So we got to get this fence up so that way we can keep them out and let all this stuff grow. Okay, so here's all the stuff that you need. T-posts for the corners, because when you're pulling everything tight, these plastic step-in stakes are they're too flimsy for being on the corners. So I got 9 of those. I got 4 for each corner, and then the inner fence, there's 4 for each corner, and then I have 1 for the charger. So we got ground rods. I've heard that some people had issues with grounding, so I got 2. This is 1/2-inch poly tape. You could probably get away with using just regular electric fence wire, but I wanted something that is a little more visual for them to see, because the whole point of this fence is that their depth perception is thrown off by it. So I wanted something really visual. So this one, all the 1/2-inch that I have will not be electrified. It's just going to be the 1-inch on the outside strand that's going to be electrified. But I wanted something that they could see really well. So this is white poly tape. And this is the clamps that go on the poly tape to electrify it. And then I got a grounding wire. And I got the post hole driver. And I got the black, those are 4-foot step-in stakes. And then the clamps for the T-posts. That's what clamps the poly tape onto the T-posts. And then I got the electrifier. This is a solar powered battery built in. That way I don't have to bring an extra battery out here. This one says 5 miles, so this is only a 1/4 acre. So it should work really well. But yeah, this is all the supplies that you need. I'll put a link in the description for all this stuff. Okay, I'm gonna put in the first post. This is the first corner. Alright, that should be good. So the outer strand, which is gonna be the electrified one, I'm gonna do 24 inches off the ground. Then the inner 2, I'm going to have 1 higher and 1 lower than that. So when you have the electric one on the outside, you can't have any weeds growing up in it or it'll start grounding it and it's not working. It won't work that way. So you really want to, I brought a weed whip with me just to make sure that wherever I put this outer electric one, that I can weed whip underneath so the stuff doesn't grow up and touch it. Even the soybeans, later on, if they get that tall, they'll start making it not work. So I just got to keep an eye on that, and if I need to come out and weed whip it again, I will. I was 6 feet in for the inner fence. Perfect. Okay, so once you have your corners set, So all the main pulling will be on these corners, that's why you do those. These are just flimsy. You just stomp them in like this. But it works down the middle of the line just to hold the poly tape up off the ground. So you put these about every 10 yards. So like I said, it's every 10 yards or so, but like this is a little bit shorter one because I got to go around all this tree that's sticking out here. I'm gonna put it right on the point where it can wrap around. This is kind of a curvy spot back in here, so I'm just gonna have it wrap right around the curve. So keep in mind, this is just the outer one that I'm doing so far. So on the inside of every one of these black stakes, I'm going to do another one, but the same distance. Okay, so now we got all of our corner T-posts in and all of our 4-foot stakes that go all the way around for the poly tape. So now I'm going to just go put clips on the T-post, and then after that I'll be ready to feed the poly tape through. So this outer electric wire is going to be about 2 feet, so I'm just going to guess. Or this inner one I'm going to do higher, that way the deer see it and don't think they can jump over. This inner one can be a little lower to the ground because it's not going to be electrified, so it doesn't matter if the plants grow up and are touching it. As you can see, there's soybeans right there coming in. So those are probably going to be up here touching it, but that's okay because it's not going to be electric. I think I need to move this one down a little bit. Okay, here we go, feeding the lower wire. Once you get the spool unspooling pretty well, it gets pretty easy. Doing the 4th one up from the bottom. Just gonna pull out a bunch right here. Fourth one up. I'm using what's left of this one to do the rest of the top strand. Didn't quite make it around with the first roll of this stuff, so I'm going to use the second one now. Like I said, this inner one's not going to be electrified at all, so just tying it like it's a rope, basically. This one's a little high. I'm going to move it down a little bit. Well, I got the inner fence done, the double strand, and the outer one will just be one in the middle, and that's gonna be the electric one. Okay, that should do it. So even in between here shouldn't get browsed, because they could easily jump it all. They could easily jump from there into there, but they don't think they can because of the visual. When they're standing back here, to them it just looks like a taller fence, because they don't understand depth perception like we do. So even though it looks short and they can jump it easily, they don't know that they can, so they usually won't even try. There you go, guys. Okay, this is the start and the end of the electric one. You can just tie knots on it as long as it's not touching the metal. It just needs to be touching that T-post insulator. Here it is. Finished fence. So it wraps all the way around this whole 1/4 acre food plot. Okay, so you got this piece. This is a clamp that you slide the poly through the middle of it, and then you clamp it down, and then this hooks up to the hot part of the solar charger. So you just got to make sure that your solar charger is within range with this. Alrighty, we'll go right here. I really like how the sun gets a lot of sun. It's right up there in the middle of the day. Here's the solar charger. On the bottom of this, it has a pocket for T-posts and different kind of things, so it can fit on like a lot of different stuff. So it just fits right on here, nice and snug like that. And like I was saying, this will go on here, and then the hot hooks up right to this. Just gonna hang that there for now. So the other thing that's super important is grounding this. So here's the ground post here, so I'm going to run a wire from this ground post to those 2 ground rods that I'm going to pound into the ground about, maybe there's this much showing, and then they have clamps on them that I'll run the wire through those 2 clamps and up to this post. Okay, I'm going to put my 2 ground rods right here. I'm going to get one started, get the other one started. What I have for the ground wire, this is 10 gauge outdoor wire. Alright, so I'm going to do is strip a good chunk of this wire, because I'm going to wrap it, bend it around, and wrap it around this post. That way it stays and makes really good contact in there. Okay, I don't know how you can see this. Tighten this up. I'm gonna strip a bunch of this. Strip a good section of it, like a foot long. That way it can go right in both of these. I'm gonna pound these in a little farther. All right. Okay, so here's this clamp. I'm going to loosen up one of these. I'm going to take it all the way off. One of these wing nuts. So basically, you spread this apart, straddle it around this poly tape, and then put the bolt back through. And I put it right up against this post, that way the wind isn't just flopping it around. And this is all plastic, this post, so it's all insulated. Alright, make it nice and tight. There you go, now that's not going anywhere. Okay, another thing about this solar charger is that you need to charge it for 3 days in the sun before you ever turn it on. So I've had it just sitting out at home charging, so it should be good to go. Here's an orange light on here that says fence okay if it's good to go. It comes with tape underneath of here. So I'm going to try to turn this on and see what happens. There you go. It's blinking, which means the fence is good. And you definitely don't want to touch that. So this is the area that I left. So that'll be our comparison in a couple months to see if it looks a lot different in there compared to out here, and that'll tell us if the fence was worth it or not. I think it definitely will be. I'm going to pick a spot where I know there's some soybeans right there. And then I'll put that exclusion cage up and we'll be able to see the difference hopefully in a few months. Okay, this is an exclusion fence that I've had out here for a few years. It's basically just a chicken wire cage on a smaller T-post. So I see there's some soybeans here, so I'm going to get a couple of those. That'll be a good comparison because there'll be some on the outside and some on the inside. There you go. Hopefully we come back in 2 months from now and it's really nice and tall and green inside of there, and out here it looks like it's mowed to the ground because that'll tell us we did a good job and that it was worth doing. Okay guys, I'm back. It's been a couple months. Food plots are growing. There's some grass in here. There's also soybeans mixed throughout, and then I came through a couple weeks after the initial planting and spread a bunch of winter rye. So that's where a lot of the grass, the smaller grass stuff is coming up. So I'm not too worried about the other grass that's in there. It should be fine. As you can see in my exclusion cage out here, like the soybeans in there are quite a bit bigger. They really didn't hit this too bad outside of here, but it's definitely shorter than inside the fence. But I had a trail camera set up here this whole time, and I haven't got any deer in here. It's been working. I'm gonna pull it down today. We got a few weeks till hunting season, so let them get used to it again and come back in here. And yeah, so today's tear down day. I was just gonna show you guys this real quick, but as I was taking the fence down, I noticed this. Here's one of the outside posts that was holding up the fence. Look at this trail on the outside, just heavily beat down where they're walking around it. Pretty cool. That shows that it works.